And in 3, 2, 1.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the fourth episode of the POPAHOLICS podcast. Today's date is October 9th, 2019. I am one of your hosts here, Franklyn McInnis, and of course I have with me my co-host, Collecting Plastic.
Hey, what's up, Popaholics?
This episode is pretty much going to be a special one because we're focusing totally about the Joker. And within this podcast, basically here, we're going to first break down our favorite Joker Funko Pops because, of course, we are the Popaholics podcast. And then we are going to get into some talk about the movie, of course, the Joaquin Phoenix starring movie and directed by Todd Phillips. We will get into that. We'll have some spoiler-free thoughts to start off with, and then we're going to have basically a deep dive conversation in which there will be movie spoilers, but we'll give you a heads up when we get to that point for sure. You know, we'll make sure we take care of that. But yeah, we want to start things off here by focusing on our top 5 favorite Joker Pops, and if you're cool with the Collecting Plastic, I will start that off here.
I will be cool with it this one time.
Okay, so I'm not going to run through my top 5 here. At number 5, I actually have the first Joker Pop, which was part of the DC Universe line. So this is Joker number 6. Very simple pop, but it does have those spiral eyes that I like, which I don't think they've done that with many other pops. That is a simple way to convey craziness. So that's something I like about it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing I don't like about it. I get what you're saying about the spiralness, making him look crazy, but I don't know. There's something about that just doesn't look like the Joker to me. But that's your decision there.
Yeah, and I know it. Like I said, it's not to everybody's taste, but I still like it as a simple pop. It's one of the few older, Funko Pops that I'm into because it does have that simple pose, just arms down at the side. But I still like it.
It did put it apart from the other ones, set it apart.
Yeah, true, because that wasn't like a common thing for Funko back then to mix up the eyes. At number 4, I have one that a lot of people were hyped about. I think a lot of people actually kept this in their collections if they were able to get a hold of it, and that is the Killing Joke Joker. And I think a lot of people at this point more people are familiar with the storyline than they used to be because of the animated version. Although I will say, if you've seen the animated version only, please read the comic because the animated version is not so great to me. I like the comic a lot more, but
yeah, I like them both. I know what to try to do with that because if they would have just done the comic, the movie would have been 20 minutes long.
Yeah.
But what they did, it's almost like half of the movie takes place in the present and the other half takes place in the past when they're not supposed to.
Yeah, they added in that whole sort of Batgirl prologue that was just really awkward, and they had that really corny thug. I think his name was like Paris France or something.
Yeah,
it's like come on.
Dude. It's like who's his henchman? Pizza Pasta.
And then and then the relationship there between Batman and Batgirl, it was so cringy to me. So
yeah, but the actual Joker part though, the actual part where it's the killing joke, I think is pretty good.
Yeah, and that ending too has been debated for a long time. I think the movie makes the ending a little bit clearer. I won't spoil that for anybody if they haven't checked it out. Well, like I said, the comic. You really want to check out the comic, and that's why I like the pop. The pop is just a nice reminder of that classic comic,
Yeah.
At number 3, I have the Bank Robber Joker from The Dark Knight, of course, which is one I still would like to have in my collection someday.
One of my favorites in mine, man.
Yeah, and I've told you before, I get jealous whenever I see anybody that has that one. That's definitely one I want to track down eventually. And I know they have the 2-pack where it's that Joker and then also the Joker without the mask from The Dark Knight. Yeah. I feel like there might be, if I'm not mistaken, isn't there like a very rare glow in the dark variant too or something?
I think the 2-pack has a glow in the dark, or I think the 2-pack is the glow in the dark.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. I would love to have that, but I'm pretty sure that's very tough.
You know
to
how
track
much I paid
down.
for that pop?
How much?
I paid $20 shipped off of eBay for that pop.
Wow.
I know.
That definitely can't happen now.
And it was like mint condition too. I was like, phew. Because at the time I was just starting collecting, and that's one of the first ones I got. And I was like, dude, how is this gonna work through the mail? But I took the chance with that one, man. It came in perfect condition. It's kind of what took this the fear of ordering from eBay away from me. I was like, okay, all right. Looks like these eBay guys are collectors too.
Uh, some of them.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, some of
You
them.
know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and
And
they're collectors,
and
and the other half care about their money and their return business.
yeah, exactly. And some people may not know what you let me know about that mask for the bank robber Joker from The Dark Knight. Like, let them know real quick about that mask.
Yeah, so the bank robber, the mask that the Joker wears at the beginning when in the school bus, then they're robbing the bank, is what the Joker in the very first 1966, that Goofy series with Adam West, where what was his name? Cesar Romero
Yeah.
played the Joker. When you first see him, he's wearing that mask, or one very, very similar to it. I think the only difference is in that one, it doesn't have red dots on the cheeks, but it does have the blue, like goatee, 5 o'clock shadow, and eyebrows. And I thought it was a nice throwback to that.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty cool, and it's something I didn't know until you let me know that, and then since then I've seen it in like other videos that really break down the Dark Knight movie. But that's a nice piece of trivia there for sure. At number two, and this kind of surprises me that I put it this high, but yeah, number two, I have to go with the it's Death of the Family. I think I got that right, right? Death of the
Yeah,
Family
I
Joker.
believe it's Death of the Family
Okay,
is the 2012 story, and Death in the Family I think is from the 80s.
okay.
I might
So
be
yeah,
wrong, but I think
yeah, I think
correct.
that's right. But yeah, that one is just it's such a creepy Joker and such a different look for him too, especially with that like almost like janitor jumpsuit on or whatever.
I think it's
He
a
has the
mechanic.
hammer. Yeah, yeah, mechanic, and he has the hammer in hand, which is pretty gruesome itself. But then, of course, this is from the storyline where he cut his face off and then basically like stapled it back on or whatever, and you can still kind of see the muscles along the brow from
Yeah,
beneath his
it's
face. It's like he turned
gnarly.
his face into a mask, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just really horrific, and it works as well as like a horror pop for your collection too. So that's what I like about it. Before I get into my number one, I do want to give an honorable mention to the only version we have right now of the Jack Nicholson Joker, and that's part of the Batman '89 movie moment where Batman had just punched out the Joker after he put on the glasses, and he's like, "You wouldn't hit a guy with glasses, would you?" So for right now, that's the only Jack Nicholson Joker that we have as a pop. I'm pretty sure they'll do a standalone eventually. I hope
Well,
they would. you know,
officially, isn't that color variant of the original Joker pop? There was a color variant that went to Walgreens, and I think that was supposed to be like the Jack Nicholson Joker, but not
oh,
really officially. But I think it's painted.
the black suit Joker.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be the Jack Nicholson one, right? But
I
not
have that
officially.
one, but I have that one, but if I hope that's not the only one we would get because that's not really the
No,
real
man.
deal. You know what I'm saying? Like
I think we'll get
that
an official one. We'll get an official one. They're just gonna wait for all the movie moments to sell, and then when that fizzles out, they'll be like, okay, put it out now.
and they did the Dorbs, they did the Dorbs of Jack Nicholson because I know they did one where he has on the beret, like
Yeah.
from the museum scene, so yeah, I really hope that they make that happen. And some more based off of those 90s movies, even though they got pretty cheesy, especially by the time they got to Batman and Robin, but still they would make some great pops. When you think about
Oh, dude.
Catwoman, which
Like I
a
want
lot
Cat.
of
That's
people
my
want.
most wanted. Is the Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman is like my most wanted pop.
Yeah, that would sell like gangbusters for sure. And then Danny DeVito Penguin. You got of course Riddler, Two Face, even Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze, which is pretty cheesy, but would do very well. I've actually seen a custom of that before that I think
Poison
was like a
Ivy.
light up custom. It looked amazing.
Really?
So we'll see if they do that eventually. But yeah, I just want to throw that in there as an honorable mention because fingers crossed we'll get like a standalone Jack Nicholson Joker eventually.
I think so. I mean, they put out an official, like more than one, right? In 1989 or 19. What is it? 1988. Batman.
Yeah, I mean they just did another one in the Target box. So yeah,
No,
it's been
it's
referenced.
89, right? 89 when it came out.
89, yeah, 89, and then I forgot when Batman Returns came out. Might have been 91. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've done more than one of that Batman, so hopefully we get the villains, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But at my number one, I actually have the Arkham Asylum Joker just because I feel like it is that quintessential Joker. It's not like a pop that really jumps out at you, but just when I think about Joker, like that's the image that kind of comes to my mind. He's got the classic purple suit, of course, the slick back green hair and all that, the crazy eyes, the long smile, so that just to me stands out as like a quintessential Joker. That's why I like that pop so much, even though it's very simple.
No, yeah, I agree. It's definitely like a combination of all the Jokers, right? You got the slick suit, You got the green hair. You got like the crazy kind of terrorist acts. He's also kind of gangster looking. It is a good combination of all the Jokers.
Yeah, and now of course I think that's what they use for those Target Chrome pops, which I won't lie, even though Chrome is so overdone, I kind of want the purple one. Like that's the only one I want though, because I think that one does look cool. But
Yeah.
yeah, and I know they tried to represent the different colors that go along with his look, like they have the green, the orange, the black,
Mhm.
all that. But I just want the purple one.
Yeah, and it's a hard pass for me. I think the purple one by itself, that one kind of okay, but any of the other ones, like the orange one by itself, I'm like, really? You have to
That's
kind
a
of have them
reach.
all. Yeah, you have to
That's a
have them
reach though.
all
Like
for them to look all right, and I'm just like,
yeah, because
not
the
not for
orange
me.
one, I mean, I know it's representing his vest basically, or sometimes it's like the
Yeah.
inside of his coat, but that's a bit of a reach to me. If they had the purple one, if that was the one that came along with the shirt, because it actually is a Arkham Asylum shirt, it's the Joker standing in front of Arkham Asylum, that would be perfect for me. But
Yeah.
that's all they would have needed to done for me. But it is what it is though at this
Yeah, they're
point.
they're definitely pushing it with the chromes with that now.
Yeah, but yeah, that's my top five. I know other people's lists would be very different. I'm sure there's some differences on yours as well.
Okay, so solid list. Mine is a little different. So I went with like I've done a top 5 Joker pops before, but it was a while ago now and it has changed a bit. And I'm going basically with design and character. I was a little bit more strict with what exactly was a Joker pop with that other list. This one's going to be a little different, and it's just overall my favorite, right? I'm not putting. Sometimes I'll admit, okay, something has a better design than something that's my favorite, so I'll put it higher on the list. These are basically my favorite ones.
All
So
right.
before I get started, I'm going to do my honorable mention now, and my
Okay.
honorable mention is Death of the Family Joker. I think it looks really good. Why I'm not putting it in my top 10 is because to me this is kind of towing the line on the Joker. I know the story's great and everything. What he does is classic Joker, right? It's just these big elaborate plans, really twisted, trying to get people to do um, things that they wouldn't normally do. But the look of him to me, this looks more like a horror villain. This is tiptoeing the line of just looking like a horror villain because like his
Yeah.
suit doesn't look like the Joker. I mean, he looks a little bit more like Leatherface than anything. But what I do like about it is he is absolutely terrifying. This guy is terrifying in a way though, as like being in the same room with Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre is terrifying, but not so much because he's the Joker. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm
Yeah.
putting him as an honorable mention.
I totally get what you're saying, and like I said, because I'm such a horror fan. That's why he made it to my list.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and which makes sense. You know, it's your list, your favorites.
Yeah.
So at number 5, I might get booed for this one. It is a Suicide Squad pop, but it's not the one you think. The one that I'm including is one that wasn't even in the movie. It was the Joker dressed as Batman. And I think it looks really cool because it's basically the Batman pop painted up like the Joker, but you do see the Joker's skin and face under there and his teeth. So it is the Joker dressed up as Batman. And to me, that seems like something the Joker would do. Is like show up to a final confrontation against Batman dressed like Batman, but in purple and green, just to be annoying. Um, but just overall, I like the look of the pop. I like how it's got Joker spray painted against the chest, or that might be blood. Really like that one.
Yeah.
Um,
And I'm not gonna hate on that because you know why? Because even though that wasn't in the movie, I couldn't help but feel like maybe there was a version of the script where, at the end, how he came to rescue Harley and he was in like the SWAT uniform.
yeah,
I really wonder if there was a version of it where he came at the end, but he was dressed as Batman to like
yeah.
rescue her.
Or even when he comes with the helicopter, like the scene in the helicopter where he's got the
Yeah.
big machine gun. That could have been dressed
It would have been more
as
interesting if
Batman.
there was like a silhouette of him at some point and you think is Batman, then it turns out to be Joker. That would have been interesting. And really with that movie, they could have threw any ideas at the wall pretty much,
Yeah.
you know.
See, and I like the idea of that. Right? And that's why I won't get into why I think that movie should have been a Batman versus Joker and Harley movie to begin with. But I like the idea of Joker dressed up as the Batman, and I do like the look of that design.
Yeah, I can understand that.
So at number 4, I have the Batman the Animated Series Joker, basically the original Mark Hamill Joker. And to me, this is just so classic because I liked Batman before, but what really made me love Batman is the animated series. And I love that version of the Joker because he is a terrorist, he's also a gangster, and he makes his kills funny. Like they have punchlines to them, right?
Yeah.
And he's very dark in it too. Like for a kids movie, it's very dark. Like he beats on Harley, he tries to kill people. He's just to me it's a perfect Joker.
Yeah, it's way darker than some people realize. You know, if you look back at it, it's much darker than some people realize.
Yeah, and this pop looks really good. I love the black and white shoes. I like just like the 50s look to them and the suit. I like that he's holding a Joker card. I like the grin and I like the hair sculpt and the colors. It's just to me, it's pretty perfect representation of this Joker, the gangster slash kind of terrorist Joker.
I think we both would love to have that Mark Hamill as the Joker too. That'd be
That
pretty
would be
cool.
kind of cool. That would be
Yeah.
kind of maybe if they did a Batman story where they're both older, right? Like Batman coming out of retirement and that Joker escaping.
Oh well, you know what? That's happening on the with the CW, one of their crossovers. Mark
But I
Hamill is
hate
actually going to
CW, man.
play. Yeah.
I hate the CW shows though. I can't stand them.
I'm with you there, but I mean that's something cool that they are doing. Mark Hamill is going to actually play an older Joker, and Kevin Conroy is going to play an older Batman.
Really? Well,
Yeah,
that I would watch. That I would watch.
yeah.
Although I'd prefer them just to do an animated movie. But at number 3, I believe we have the same one, and that is the bank robber Joker. And I think this was a perfect introduction to the Joker in that movie. I just loved it. I loved the whole bank robbing scene. It looked like it was directed by Michael Mann. It was magnificent. Like you said earlier, I love the callback to the original 1966 Romero Joker with the mask paint on it. Really, really liked this one. I didn't include this one in my original list because I was like, it's a bank robber wearing a mask. Is that really the Joker? I mean, it is him, but it's not a Joker pop, right?
Yeah.
But I love this pop, and I think it turned out great. And it's still kind of in the old style, but he does have his hand extended out, holding the gun, and a little bit more detail on the face. So it is one of those ones that started to kind of break the mold of the pops with the mouth and the hand slightly out. Really a nice looking pop to me.
Yeah, and you mentioned Michael Mann. Christopher Nolan didn't hide it. He basically said he did rip off Heat for that opening.
I mean,
And
even the music, but
yeah, and even one of the actors, you notice one of the actors from Heat is in the bank.
which one?
The one that actually grabbed the shotgun to try to defend the bank. He's like, "Do you
He
know who
was in
you're?"
Heat.
Yeah, he was in Heat. Yeah, he was the guy that tried to set up Robert De Niro, the guy that actually sent him for that pickup and then tried to have him killed.
Oh, that's right. He had that
Yep.
small little role. Yeah, I like that
Yeah,
actor too.
that's why he was cast. He was specifically cast
He was
because
the
he
one
was
that
in
got
Heat.
Henry Rollins, right? He had Henry Rollins as his like henchman.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Well, like to me, I wouldn't call that a ripoff. I'd call it like, look, dude, you can't get better like a bank robbery than you do in Heat. So it
yeah.
kind of sets the marker. Like this is how you do a bank
He
robbery scene.
he he pulled a Tarantino basically.
Exactly. Like it's
Heavy
like when you do it
inspiration.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah. When you do it right, it's not ripping off. I think.
yeah.
But at number 2, I have another one that maybe people might disagree with me, but it's the Joker with Kisses, the Hot Topic exclusive. Don't really know anything about this pop, never read any of the comic books, but I do love the idea of putting some of the Batman characters in different eras. And I think this one looks great, and it's all about the details. I think
Now I gotta ask you because it does have a chase. Do you prefer the common or the chase?
I have both of them, and I prefer the common because of the
I'm
color.
with you there. Yeah, I'm with you there. I
The
really do
chase is
prefer
great.
the common.
The chase
Yeah,
is great. The black and white with just the kisses in red, I like it. But I like the common more because the details show up more.
yeah.
Like I don't know if that's a little ascot, whatever that is. I think it looks good. The flower, the buttons, the patch, even the tiny little Joker on the hat, and the kisses on the face. It just looks really good to me. I like the hair sculpt, and I do like this idea of these characters in different eras. That's why that Ninja Batman was such a disappointment to me because it had such a cool premise, and I was like, ooh, like maybe it's just they're just gonna do Batman in feudal Japan, and that'll be cool. But with the time travel and the nonsense, that was probably the most disappointing movie I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I like this
I
Joker.
At first I really wanted Pops based off of Ninja Batman, and when I saw the movie, I was like, I don't even care anymore. I don't
Yeah,
want a reminder of that movie because it's so terrible. And if you all have never seen Ninja Batman, don't bother, honestly, because it's
I
probably
would
going
say
to.
bother. I would say bother. Watch it. Watch it. It's almost like it's fascinating in how bad it is, in my opinion.
Yeah, I guess so. It's yeah. I'll say this, as a matter of
Watch
fact,
it when you're high or drunk.
in fact, if any listeners ever check out Ninja Batman and you want to go off about it in the comments, please feel free because I definitely would like to hear some thoughts about
Yeah,
that.
it's horrible.
Yeah,
It's animated well, though. I'll give it that. But
yeah.
oh man, what they do is just it's unbelievable. Like my mouth was like gaped
It's
open. I
it's
was like,
like
for real?
it's like it got worse and worse and worse along the way. It's amazing.
Yeah, I don't know what they were trying to do. But okay, number one, I have the Killing Joke Joker. To me, this is the best Joker pop from the best Joker story ever. This is basically the psychotic, vengeful Joker, right? With the brim hat, like the classic look of the Joker. But he's wearing, of course, like a little tourist kind of outfit, which I think is kind of cool. But this is my favorite Joker because I do like the story, and the story isn't this big, super crazy plot. It's just the Joker, just doing something awful, like the Joker does, like the psychotic shithead that he is. What he does is just he wants to break a human being down and prove that everybody is as crazy as him. It only takes one day for somebody to go nuts, and not everybody's this altruistic hero. Everybody can be as evil as him if they've had his experiences. And that's what I like about this Joker. And I think the pop is executed really well. All the details, I mean, down to this little cocktail that he's holding looks like a real drink. And yeah, I think it's just executed perfectly.
And something that just crossed my mind too that's very cool about this pop and this version of the Joker is that okay, with bank robber Joker, he's holding a gun. Death of the Family Joker, he's holding that hammer, those weapons. But
Hmm.
you really think about it, a camera is a weapon as well.
Yep.
And if you know the story and you know his use of that camera, you know how just sick the Joker really is. So I think
Yeah.
that camera in some ways seems even more twisted than those weapons.
Yeah, and that's what I like about this story and everything, because the Joker, he isn't just about like, oh, I'm gonna go kill. I mean, he loves killing, but he would rather drive somebody crazy than to kill him. That's like I think the Joker, one of the worst things that could happen to the Joker is Batman actually dying. Like I think the Joker would really miss Batman if he died.
Yeah, well, it's been brought up multiple times in comics. Even Kevin Smith at one point, he's written some Batman stories and not always the greatest, but he has some that are solid. And he actually has one where uh Batman Batman has done this more than once where he kind of lost it and almost killed the Joker. So
Mhm.
there's this one time Batman like he really beat the Joker down and the Joker's in a hospital bed and Batman's there and the Joker straight up tells him, he's like, he said, all it takes for me to quit doing what I do is for you to stop doing what you do. Basically, he said, if you weren't Batman, if you weren't here, he's like, I honestly would not do this anymore. And I was like, that's how does that make Batman feel to hear that? It's pretty twisted to think about that.
Yeah, he likes to torment him. He likes to torment Batman and make Batman feel that what the Joker does is Batman's fault. And like the Joker would I in my opinion would rather prefer Batman to kill him than for the Joker to kill Batman. I think it's a bigger joke to him to have Batman actually kill him
Well, yeah,
than
and
to
and
win.
Nolan played off of that so well with The Dark Knight
Yeah.
because you know, the Joker, he had that line in the interrogation room where he's like, "You complete me,"
Yeah.
and you remember when the Bat Cycle or the Bat Pod was charging at Joker, and the Joker's just standing there like, hit me,"
Yeah.
and even at the end of the movie when he was falling off that building before Batman caught him, he was laughing like he was ready to die at the hands of Batman. So
Yeah.
it's a very twisted relationship that the characters have there.
Yeah, definitely agree there. So that's my top 5.
All right, cool. And I want to go ahead and kind of, address the elephant in the room because I've been seeing this so much in my comments. Why are there not pops based off of the Joker movie. And at first, I kept telling people over and over that, they're treating this as a serious drama. I said, I don't think there would be pops based off of the movie, at least not in the run up to the Oscars, because
Yeah.
they don't want this to be looked at as a comic book movie. They want it to be looked at as a serious drama. And then after seeing the movie, I've kind of started telling people, or just asking people, have you seen the movie? Because I feel like if you watch the movie, you'll understand why the focus is not on figures. I think it makes a big difference once you actually see it.
Yeah, and it could be a number of things. Has there ever been a Funko Pop of a Joaquin Phoenix character?
Not that I could think of, and that is
Was
you're
there?
bringing up another good point
Did they
because
make Commodus from Gladiator, or
they
just?
just he's on the way out. He's on the way out now.
So they are making a Commodus.
Yeah, he is on the way.
Okay,
I just
because he
yeah
could be one of those actors. Like I could see Joaquin Phoenix being one of those guys that doesn't like his likeness put into toys or figures.
yeah.
But if they're making Commodus, that might not
But
be.
it still could be on a character by character basis. If he feels like this is not appropriate for
Yeah,
this
it could be
movie
in his
because of
contract.
the content, then I completely understand that. I'm just gonna say that to anybody that's asking why there aren't figures based on the movie. At least watch the movie first, and maybe you'll get a better understanding of why exactly that is. It makes sense to me personally, and I do think maybe after the whole Oscar season and all of that, who knows? Maybe the studio would be more open to that. We'll just have to wait and see what
I
happens
mean,
there.
they might eventually. I mean, they make them for every other DC movie, and like, dude, they've made Taxi Driver Funko Pop. They've made Clockwork Orange Funko Pop. Um,
But
they
the
have made crazy, psychotic
but the
Funko
difference
Pops.
is though is that, like, let's say that Funko was around in the 70s and the 80s. Imagine if Clockwork Orange just came out. I don't think Funko would jump to put out figures based on it. You know what I'm saying?
No,
Like
it's way too
there's some
controversial.
distance. We have distance from those, and a lot of people just know the iconography. Like they know the characters, but they may have never even seen the movie.
Hmm.
Like there are some people that are just fans of cinema and they're fans of certain images. Like a lot of people know the improv scene from Taxi Driver with Robert De Niro. You're looking at me. That's just well known, but not everybody's actually seen the movie. It's
Hmm.
just they know that scene. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So with some distance there, I think that's why Funko feels okay to do those figures. Even with Laura Palmer, that was kind of a controversial figure. But again, like if the series had just came out and there was just the whole Laura Palmer thing, maybe they would not have done that pop like right away. Who knows?
Yeah, and yeah, but I honestly, dude, I think the main reason is is that they want to be taken seriously, and
Yeah,
I think, and with rightly so, because Joaquin Phoenix's performance is, I think, good enough for at least a nomination. So having Funko Pops out there, all cutesy and stuff, right now probably wouldn't help with that. But yeah, we may see him along the line, and I wouldn't be. I would gamble on that they are gonna make them because the movie is doing really well, um, financially. So why not?
yeah, and honestly, I mean, just putting out Joker stuff around this time, they're still making money. Like, Funko just did the Chrome Joker pops, and that timing, I don't think is coincidental at all. They right when the movie comes out, they got these Chrome Joker pops, so they're finding ways, still to make money and put things out for people. But yeah, as
Well,
far as the actual,
I'm sure Funko already have. I'm sure Funko designs for every single version of the Joker in
yeah,
this movie, just ready for the okay.
yeah. Because a lot of the creators there, they're fans of the, all this comic books and the movies and all of that. They're fans, so I mean, of course, they're sitting around, they're thinking about that. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, after Oscar season, you never know what could happen. But I think I haven't read the full story. I know that Robert Downey Jr. pretty much took his name out of the running for the Oscars. I'm not sure what exactly his reasoning was, but even though I really love his performance in
Did
Endgame,
he
I think
really?
it
Where did
is.
you hear that?
I just saw that today. Actually, I just saw like the headline. I didn't read into it yet because I just had so much going on.
Because
But
I listened to the Howard Stern show,
mhm.
and his show is in LA right now, and his Monday show was awesome. I mean, he had Arnold Schwarzenegger on there. He had Adam Levine. He had what's her name from Friends, the one that plays Rachel, super hot one.
Oh
God,
yeah,
what's her name?
Jennifer Aniston.
Jennifer Aniston. And he had Robert Downey Jr. And Robert Downey Jr.'s appearance was great. I mean, he starts out by he almost gets into a fight in the green room. I mean, he's all over the place. He's hilarious. But one of the things he touches on, well, actually Howard Stern brings it up, is asking Robert Downey Jr., why aren't you nominated for an Oscar for Tony Stark? Why haven't you ever been nominated for that? Like, do you think that you should be nominated for an Oscar for Endgame? Um, and Robert Downey Jr. doesn't really say yes, and he doesn't really say no. And I do feel like Robert Downey Jr. feels like he should be nominated for an Oscar. And of course, they go into what Martin Scorsese said, and Robert Downey Jr. actually expresses his opinion about Martin
Well,
Scorsese,
let's
saying that
make
it's
sure we
not
let
cinema.
people know. Yeah, go ahead. Let people know what Scorsese said.
Yeah, Martin Scorsese said that basically the Marvel Cinematic Universe isn't cinema. That it's like an amusement park, but not like classic cinema with people conveying emotions between each other, right? And I think the wrong thing that he did was say he didn't say in my opinion. That's what he should have said. He
Yeah.
basically put it out there like it's fact. I'm Martin Scorsese, and this is fact. And Robert Downey Jr., I highly recommend you guys look up Howard Stern, Robert Downey Jr., his latest appearance. It was just this Monday. But he does touch on, he's like, it says Marvel Cinematic Universe right there in the title. How is it not cinema? Right? And he doesn't out and out say Martin Scorsese is just jealous. Like Howard Stern tries to get it out of him. But you could tell Robert Downey Jr. was a little bit offended by what Martin Scorsese had to say.
Well, I found the quote. I see here that Howard Stern said, because it's a superhero movie, they turn up their nose at it. And that's exactly what Scorsese did, which seems very hypocritical
Yes.
because, for one thing, I mean, we both know that at one point he was attached to the movie. I'm not sure. I actually didn't check the credits. Is he still a producer on the Joker movie?
He might be.
I think
I'm not
he
sure,
might
but at
be
one point
still.
he was going to be the director, right? Or maybe just a
Well, I don't know
producer,
if
writer.
I'm not. I know he was a producer. I'm not sure if he was ever going to direct, but I know he was attached in some way, and I think that's why not Robert Downey Jr. Excuse me, Robert De Niro actually ended up in the movie.
Yeah.
But and it even has a very Robert De Niro vibe to it. It has that sort of Mean Streets, Goodfellas type of vibe
Oh,
to it in the
dude,
way
and
that it's shot
it's
and
got
everything.
Martin Scorsese. I mean, it's got Martin Scorsese all over it, man. Mean Streets, The King of Comedy,
Yeah,
Taxi
exactly.
Driver. Almost too much where it was distracting to me at certain points. There was so much Scorsese in the movie that I was like, okay, now I'm just thinking about the Taxi Driver.
Yeah, and it's not just him being attached to the movie that makes it hypocritical to me. It's also that, for one thing, when it comes to Marvel movies, I have had emotional connections plenty of times with the characters. I was way more emotional over Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and Endgame than
Yes.
any Scorsese movie that I've seen. And I feel like some of his movies too, he talks about Marvel being like theme parks. Well, I'm like, his movies are like theme parks with guns, basically.
Yeah.
Because he glorifies crime in a lot of his movies. And also,
And don't get me wrong, he's one of my favorite directors. And like you say, um, there's only two movies. I mean, there may be some more, but I'm not a big crier, right? But there's only two movies that will still kind of jerk a tear out of me. Maybe one tear, and that is Gattaca, the end of Gattaca, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I'm like, dude, that is like what happened to Yondu in that, and the
yeah.
reaction, and then when they all show up to do the Ravager funeral and everything, I was like, that is freaking
and and
making
I've
me
seen
sad.
it, I've seen it in the comments. I guarantee a lot of listeners know that they teared up at that moment, the
Oh, come on.
Ravager
I
funeral.
mean, come on, man.
And
Like,
Endgame, there are so many emotional moments in Endgame as well. So yeah, I just don't buy that about him, saying it's all about emotional connection, because Marvel does have that on top of the spectacle. And like I was saying with his movies, I don't always get that. It is sort of like just a thrill and the glorification of crime, and of course he shows the negatives, the outcomes of crime as well, but still it's very stylized, criminal behavior.
and you never know.
And
Like, you have to think about whatever the context was, because maybe that quote by Martin Scorsese is taken out of context, or maybe his experience with this Joker movie. Like maybe one of the reasons he took more of a back seat was he was getting a lot of pressure to make this movie fun, or make it this or that. Where he's just like, okay, well, are we making a movie here, or are we making a roller coaster ride? What are we doing? And it could be, influenced by that too. We never know why he said it. We just have this cold quote in front of us. And I think that's something that Robert Downey Jr. does address too. He goes like, look, who knows what he was talking about, and what if this quote is taken out of context?
Yeah, I can see that. Given the benefit of the doubt there, but and I think we have to be careful too about how we try to define cinema because it can be so many things. Like some people would look at a movie like Casino and say that is a terrible movie because it relies so much on narration. It's like at least 70% narration, where some people look at that as very lazy writing. So yeah,
Dude,
it just depends on your definition of cinema,
the way
basically.
I see cinema is if it's moving pictures with sound of some kind, and it has a runtime that's over an hour and 20 minutes. That's cinema, that's a movie, everything. If you got a cover that's bound with paper on the inside, that's a book. No matter how you say it, no matter what the book is about, no matter if it's a goddamn cartoon book, whatever it is, that's a book. Nobody can say that's not a book. And anything on screen that is moving pictures with sound and it has a runtime of a movie is cinema. I mean,
Yeah,
that's the way I see it.
and I would argue even if you go back into movie history that even the runtime doesn't matter as much because Charlie Chaplin absolutely cinema even with his shorts,
Yeah.
like his short pictures, like really good cinema, so yeah, he just unfortunately he came across as very like I said hypocritical, very judgmental within that and almost sounding kind of bitter at the
Yeah, he
same
sounds
time.
jealous.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this has been kind of a thing with the Oscars. Like there was one Oscars where they took a lot of shots really at comic book movies, and I'm like, why are y'all doing this when there are so many actors that actually are part of this, part of this world, especially part of the MCU. For example, Michael Keaton, for a long time he was like known as Batman, and then he kind of moved away from that. He ended up doing the movie Birdman, which kind of took shots at, the whole comic book movement and all of that. But then he turns right around and he's in the MCU as the Vulture.
Well, that
So
and Birdman won Best Picture, and I forget if he won Best Actor for that or not, but it won Best Director too, I
he
believe.
he didn't win, and I
But he
hated
was
that
not.
he
But he
didn't
was
win.
nominated, right?
Yeah,
Birdman would never have worked as a movie if Michael Keaton wasn't Batman before.
yeah.
Part of the reason that that movie works is that he was Batman. So if Batman, Michael Keaton version, Tim Burton version never existed, I highly doubt that Birdman would exist now.
And what's funny is that comic book movies are so big now that what Birdman focused on actually doesn't even make sense anymore because it was all about him being known for this character and he's trying to get away from it. But there are actors now like it doesn't even I don't think really people really age out of comic book movies anymore. We see a lot of older actors in these movies and people really love seeing them in these movies. So
Yeah.
things have changed basically.
No, with the technology now, man, they could in 10 years, 15 years do a prequel to Iron Man with Robert Downey Jr. and just de-age him.
Yeah, and even without that, you have people like Robert Redford, being in
Yeah.
Captain America Winter Soldier, so yeah, the Oscars they need to get over it, and I think if they snub Joaquin Phoenix, I think a lot of people would be upset. A lot of
And
people would be upset
unfortunately, all
about
this
that.
controversy, I don't want to get into it too much because I think it's kind of silly. But all the controversy with this movie, inciting violence, or this movie being the incel hero movie, and all this crap like that, I think that all started from, you know, basically headlines and newspapers and magazines are the printed form of clickbait, right? So when you
Yeah.
combine reporters that are looking for headlines and the internet, well, guess what? They're gonna clickbait their shit out of everything. And one guy does it, creates a stir, then they all do it. Like this movie does not incite violence more than anything else. I can understand where they're coming from a little bit from it, um, because of the way this movie is done so seriously and the climate that we're in right now. Um, but to me, that
Well,
was one guy saying this headline and blowing it out of proportion, and everybody
yeah.
copying him.
We live in a society right now still where people look at situations. Okay, even with our president, I don't want to get political. I'm just stating facts here. We live in a society right now where something happens like the mass shooting in El Paso, and video games get the blame, even from our
Yeah.
president, when there is
What is it,
research that shows
1994?
there's plenty of research that shows that there's no connection between video games and violence, but people keep trying to find simple reasons why things like this happen instead of getting to the real root of problems. And that's what I like about the movie. And we'll get into this once we get into the spoilers. I think the movie tries to address that more so than a lot of people are really truly addressing, why things like this happen.
All right, so you want to get into our spoiler-free kind of assessment and rating?
Yeah, and we'll kind of, let people know whether or not we think they should check it out as well, because I'm
Okay,
sure
I'll
that's
let you
what
go
some people are
first.
wondering about. Okay, I'm gonna say this. The movie is beautifully shot. I think the cinematography is great. The acting obviously is great. Joaquin Phoenix just amazing. Just for his performance, I think that's enough to buy a ticket. I will say this though. I feel like with a lot of movies, you got to be kind of in the right place to enjoy it. Like even a comedy, you got to be ready to laugh. With a horror movie, you got to be ready to be scared and all of that. With the Joker, I think you do have to kind of be prepared that this is not a comic book movie. It is going to be very serious. It's going to dig very deep. So I think you do have to be in a certain emotional state to go into that, because if you go into the theater thinking it's going to be just another comic book movie, then it might catch you off guard. And I think that's what happened to a lot of these people with these early reviews. They expected one thing and it was not that, even though it's been publicized and it's been stated that this is a serious drama. Some people just didn't take that serious. So I would just say if you go in with the right mindset, knowing that it's going to be serious and it's going to dig very deep into the psyche of somebody that is very disturbed, then that will affect, your viewing experience. So I would say if you're up for that, definitely check it out, but just make sure you're ready for that though.
And I would say that overall, the movie, there's more things that I liked about it than I didn't like. So overall, I would give it a positive review, and I would recommend it, obviously, to anybody that's a fan of the Joker, obviously, and to people that are fans of cinema of the unease or kind of twisted cinema. I would not recommend it to my mother. I would not recommend it to people that don't like watching twisted, crazy stuff on screen. But if you do, I recommend it. Horror fans, I recommend it.
Yeah.
Um, but not to people that are kind of into lighter fare, right? And I do think, like you mentioned, if this doesn't get nominated for cinematography, I'd be very surprised.
Yeah.
I think Joaquin Phoenix should be nominated because I can't imagine too many actors being able to pull off his performance. Um, he was very, very good. And really quick, Robert Downey Jr. being nominated for Iron Man, one of the main reasons I think he should be nominated is I don't think anybody else could have pulled off Tony Stark like him, but I think that Robert Downey Jr. could pull off almost any of the other performances. Like even Robert Downey, like now that I think about it, even Robert Downey Jr. might even have been able to pull off this Joker. Um, but Joaquin Phoenix is one of the few that can. I think his performance was pretty much perfect for what it was, what script he was given. I think all the performances were good. The mother, Bruce Wayne, all of them were very, very good.
Mm.
I also really liked the score. I think the score was great. Um, I liked some of the music that they used, most of it. There was a couple of songs. I'll get into it more in the spoilers. There was a couple of songs that I think were very out of place. Um, and I think as a story about the Joker, it it wasn't like any other Joker that I've known, which is a good thing, but also kind of a bad thing because I think it takes a little bit of the essence of the character out of it. Maybe that's because this is an origin story, but to me, this Joker is not a Joker that could go face to face with Batman at all.
Well, I would say, and this is not a spoiler here, but we are going to get into spoilers soon here. Like again, we've been saying we'll give you that heads up. I would say that you got to remember that this is a origin story, so I don't think this is meant to be that Joker that would be ready for a Batman. But I would argue though that if you think about, let's say that this version of the Joker, maybe 10 years from now, I could see him being that Heath Ledger Joker to where he has completely settled into who he is.
Okay, so I'm gonna say now that we're gonna go into spoilers because I think we're kind of getting into spoilers a little bit without realizing it. So overall, you recommend it. I recommend it to the right audience, right? Basically.
Yeah, yeah.
What would you give
And
it out of 10?
I hate to do ratings like that, to be honest, but
I
I'm
force you.
not gonna say it's like perfection, and there are some movies I would almost consider perfection. Like I would call Shawshank Redemption a 10. So if I'm gonna go off of that, basically, I would have to say this is a 9 for me. That's how much I enjoyed it personally.
See, and I give it like a 7.5 out of 10. So okay, keep going on your point. That's why. Okay, so everybody knows spoiler warning,
Yeah,
right? That's why I had to
spoiler,
stop you,
spoiler,
man, because
spoiler. Yeah.
because I was like, okay, we just basically told everybody that the Joker lives.
Well, and to me personally, and we're in spoiler territory now.
Mhm.
That to me, I don't think it's such a big deal because there are already news stories floating around. Like, is there any way to connect this Joker to
Yeah,
future DC movies? So they're not
they can't
being
help
shy
themselves.
about that,
Yeah, I hate that.
and people are even putting it out there. Is Joaquin Phoenix going to come back for a sequel and this and that or whatever? So
He said
I
no.
yeah, and I respect him so much for that, and I hope he sticks to his guns on that. I think he will, because he's not that actor that's swayed by money, obviously, because for being such a major name, he does a lot of indie movies and
Mhm.
smaller movies, like The Master. He did that movie, with Philip
Yeah.
Seymour Hoffman, and so he's not about money. So I respect him so
And what was
much
that one he did
for
last year
that.
that you were never really there? I think that's what it's called, something like that.
That one was actually a couple years back, wasn't it? Was
Maybe.
that the one
Yeah.
where it was almost like real life trolling where he acted like he was a rapper or whatever?
No, no, no,
Or
no.
is this a
This is
different one?
one where he's got a big beard and he's a veteran and he runs around with a hammer, going after like child,
Oh,
you know, molesters
okay,
and stuff. Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
okay. So
It's
he has a
you know what?
movie.
It's
He
crazy. He
does
lives with
have
his
a
mom in that one too. Actually, it's actually kind of
uh,
similar to the Joker in many ways.
yeah, he has sort of a mockumentary type movie though with a similar title, that where he was like pretending that he was quitting acting and starting a rap
Yeah,
career, and
that
he
was.
was going around doing these very bizarre interviews. It was this whole meta thing he had going on or
He had
whatever.
fooled there for a minute.
Yeah, people really thought he had lost his mind.
I
Like,
forget. I forget. Yeah, I forget if it was Letterman or what show he went on, and it was maybe one of the most bizarre appearances ever.
yeah, and I still don't quite get that whole thing what he was going for there, but it was interesting.
Yeah, they
Got to
tried
give him
something.
that.
Yeah.
But yeah, getting really focused into the Joker movie. I love this performance so much because from the beginning of the movie, they let you know that this is not some guy that I mean, we talked about like the Killing Joke. He had a bad day and things went down from there, but
Mhm.
this really digs deep into his mental state. I thought it was such a brilliant move to connect his laughing to an actual
Yes, I
mental
love that.
illness.
Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
actual mental illness that he has.
Yeah, and when he shared that card with the woman on the bus and he said that he can't help his laugh and it's just a condition, I was like, wow, I've
That
never
was
thought
great.
about that before. That was just brilliant.
And Joaquin
And
Phoenix actually studied people with that because that's actually a real thing. There
yeah,
is a mental illness where that's how people react. Like they laugh. Like you know how some people with anxiety they might cough in certain situations.
yeah.
He laughs, and what he did was study people with this actual illness, and that's why he gets it down so well.
Yeah, and I think there's different levels to it too, of course, because now that I think back on it, when I was in the army, sometimes when people first meet drill sergeants, it's very intense. They're yelling in your face, they're making you exercise, they're doing all these things. And there are some people just like Gomer Pyle in Full Metal Jacket, to where he couldn't get the smile off his face.
Yeah.
That's some people's natural reaction. It's like
Mhm.
a almost like a defensive thing or something, or
Yes, a
they
defense
just
mechanism.
yeah, so but he just has it, Joaquin Phoenix, as the Joker, he has it very severely. Um
Like I do like I don't really do that, but whenever I've really injured myself, it's like I've dislocated my knee before playing soccer, and I'm telling you, man, dislocating your knee is super super painful. And I was laughing. I mean, it hurt so bad that I crossed over into like, wow, this is so painful. It's funny. Like this is so ridiculously painful, and I was just laughing on the field. And like the coaches, like they're dragging me off. They're like, "What's wrong with you? Why are you laughing?" I'm like, "Dude, 'cause look at my knee. Dude, it's bent the wrong way, man. This is horrible." And I was laughing.
Yeah, and I think his performance, yeah, that laugh, that just the laugh alone must have taken a
It's
lot out
painful.
of him. Yeah, but then there's also just the physicality altogether. Like even the way he moved his body and everything. And something else I thought was very brilliant was in the trailer. I really didn't understand what was going on with him looking like he was dancing, but it's almost like a Tai Chi type of thing to
Hmm.
kind of center himself.
And it's
His
his
awkward
clown
movements.
character. It's
Yeah.
his clown. Like that's his clown character.
So yeah, I feel like the writers they really dug deep into all the different aspects of Joker and like why does he do the things he do, and they really gave reason to these things. Which initially I was worried about that because we know origin stories sometimes they're just unnecessary.
It was
So
just the
I
same
really
thing over and over again, over and over
yeah.
again.
But with here focusing so much on his psyche and the mental illness to me really grounded it a lot. And that's why I say again that this does is so far from just a typical comic book movie. If anybody's stuck on the comic books, I feel like they almost have to let that go to an extent because this really is a different beast. But the backlash has been odd to me because even if you are just focusing on the comics and the previous movies and the TV shows, I'm just like, do you realize who the Joker is? you
Yeah.
know, w- we talked about it earlier. Like, even with the Batman the animated series, Joker was vicious. He was killing people. He's slapping Harley Quinn around,
And
which
you
I
know what's
still can't
funny,
believe they
man?
got away with that.
Is I think this is one of the tamest Jokers. I think the backlash is funny to me because I think this is one of the tamest versions of the Joker. I really
Absolutely,
do.
I
I mean,
agree.
this guy's a sweetheart almost compared to the other Jokers.
Joker
And
in the
but
comics,
keep it with
everybody
the
knows.
positives though.
Well,
Keep it in my opinion before we because like I'm starting to feel like I want to get into because you're getting into the psyche stuff and
yeah,
the portrayal of this Joker, and I did have some problems with that. Um, keeping the positives, I think that the look, the outfit, and the makeup were
yeah,
fantastic, and the
yeah,
way he transforms when he finally puts on the outfit and the makeup were really great. Um, and it's almost like a combination of that original, like the bank robber Joker mask. It's a combination of that with a little bit of the Heath Ledger kind of mouth that comes up and the long hair. And I really, really, really like the suit.
yeah. And he's going off of what he's already familiar with because he's been, he's had the job as a clown, so it's not completely removed from that. It's kind of like and this is something that the Netflix Marvel series actually made me think about because when I first watched like season one of Daredevil, I was a little bit frustrated. I was like, when's he gonna get the suit? And he didn't get it to the end of the season. And then I really thought about it, and I was like, huh, I guess that makes sense. Like, it doesn't really make sense and it's kind of jarring now that I think about it. Like in some of the Spider-Man movies where he goes from having his homemade suit and then boom, all of a sudden he has
Yeah.
a perfect suit. I mean, they made sense of that in the MCU with him having the support of Tony Stark, but other than that, people jumping to their comic book look so fast doesn't quite make sense when you really think about it.
No, I mean it's not realistic to begin with to be a crime fighter or vigilante, right? It's not
Yeah.
realistic at all. But it makes it even more silly when they go like, one day they're just, you know what, I'm gonna be a vigilante, and instead of just going out there and trying it, they're like, no, I can't do that if I don't have a suit, so I'm gonna do a suit first.
Yeah,
It doesn't make
it's like,
sense.
but there would be a progression, and I think there'd be a progression with heroes and a progression with villains where they change over time. So I get the look of the Joker much more now. Having seen the movie, I do understand that. Um, with positives, yeah, I'm right there with you though with the look of the movie and the costuming and everything. I thought the casting was he had a solid supporting cast as well. Um, Zazie Beats was kind of underused, but if you've seen the full movie, you understand why.
Yeah,
Because
see,
if she
like
had
I
been
saw
in any
that
more
coming.
scenes, that would have fell apart.
Yeah, like if they would have put her in too many scenes, it would have been cheap because
Yeah,
yeah, it's revealed that that's not real, right?
yeah,
And I knew it, like I knew that it was not going to be real. Like that one did not catch me off guard at all because when they're in the elevator, he is kind of like an incel, right? And he's scared to talk to her. And she kind of tries to break the ice and he's just kind of like doesn't even say anything. He's like scared to death of women. And he finally walks back and does kind of like the weird mimicking, shooting himself in the head kind of thing, but he does it in a very weird, almost like the way with somebody with Asperger's would do it. Um, and it's just bizarre. And she's like, "Oh, okay." And I could tell that after that, there's no way on earth that a woman like Zazie Beats would just jump into bed with this guy. It's like it's so clearly a fantasy, and I'm glad that they did someone like Sassy Beats, who is so beautiful, because it makes it clearly a fantasy to me.
But especially when she's like, "You were following me today, right?" Yeah, and then it's like, "You want to hang out?"
Cute.
And it's like, "No, no." That's that. At that moment, I was like, "No, something's not right here." I was like, "Something's not right."
Yeah, that was like I think even that is partly in his head, except for maybe like when she comes in and she goes, "Were you following me today?" Because even that, it's just like, what woman in the right mind would go like, it's like, no, if he is following me, what if he snatches me into his apartment right now? But it could be that she went up to the door and goes, "Were you following me?" And then right there is where his mind splits, and we don't really see what she is, because he's like an unreliable narrator basically.
Well, yeah, and that's true to the character, so much true to him.
Yeah,
But remember, they did have in the whole, everybody wants to call it the Sixth Sense moment, where they showed the moments where he wasn't actually with her. They actually did show him at the door by himself, so that was completely in his
that
mind.
was in there. Yeah, that was because it's like some girls go like, "Ooh, you were stalking me. That's so hot." You know, it's like, come on.
Yeah, it was completely in his mind, and it makes sense because again, Joker is just that unreliable narrator, so that worked for me.
So that one it didn't fool me at all, because at first because that's one thing, they give away too much in the trailer. Like there's too much in the trailer, man. They needed to just not do that. But yeah, I do like the way she was used in it sparingly. That's another thing that's very much like the taxi driver and his relationship with Sybil Shepherd in that movie. But yeah, I think her casting was perfect after seeing the movie and seeing that she is just a fantasy.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about the trailer. If it showed too much, I think the one thing I probably would have taken out of the trailer is him meeting, like, Bruce Wayne. That probably shouldn't have been
I
in
would have
there.
taken out of the trailer him meeting Bruce Wayne, him asking to be introduced as the Joker. They should have taken that out. Like, they should have saved that for the movie. It would have had way more impact.
Well, I guess they figured that wasn't a big deal since the movie is called Joker, but hey,
Yeah,
I understand what you're saying, that it does take away from the impact of it because it's coming. When that scene starts, it's coming.
and it's cool. It's cool the way they did it.
Yeah.
But it's not as cool in the movie because I've already seen it, 15 times in a trailer.
But yeah, Robert Down not now I mixing up my Roberts.
De
Robert
Niro.
De Niro.
Bobby
De
Ding.
Niro was great in
Yeah,
the
he
movie.
was.
I thought he was good enough maybe to be like, nominated supporting actor, but I don't know. Because I haven't seen everything, all the big dramatic movies for the year. So I mean he easily could be bumped, if he even is
Yeah, that
considered
wouldn't
right now.
surprise me.
But I liked him though. Like he really fell in, like he felt like a late night host that's been doing it for a long time.
And
Like
it's
he
a
just
great
fell right
callback
into that.
to the king of comedy. I mean,
And
it's
then his final
awesome.
scene, like he was tuned in, like he was really good in that final scene.
Yeah,
And
you can tell everybody really brought it. I mean, from even the little person actor
yeah,
was great.
absolutely.
Everybody.
Oh my God, that's like the greatest darkly comedic scene I've seen in like a long time.
Yeah. So
That was so
okay.
good.
So this is like what I didn't like about the movie. Okay. And I'm getting to that. So this Joker to me, this obviously I don't think this movie was ever made to have a sequel, because this Joker to me is not scary. He's not like the Joker is somebody, if you're in the same room as the Joker, he is so unhinged. It's like being in the same room as like with a smart tiger, right? Like that'll toy with you. Like you're a mouse and they're a cat, right? And this Joker, there's nothing about this Joker that lets me know that he's gonna someday figure out how to make laughing gas, or he's gonna make these insanely elaborate plans to make Batman confused about who he even is. If even what he's doing is a right thing. This is not a clever, cunning, criminally minded Joker. This is a this is a guy that's just beaten down by society, and he has like if you didn't do this guy wrong, he wouldn't hurt you. So that scene was great. Like he stabbed that big guy in the neck. He saw him as a catalyst to some of the bad things that happened, because of course he blames his mistakes with the gun on him because that big guy gave him the gun. So I can see why he killed him. The real Joker, though, I think would have killed the little person. I think the Joker that is the classic comic book, or even just the essence of the character, would have made it a joke into letting the little guy think he's gonna get away, but then he latches the lock on top, knowing that he can't reach it, and he kills him anyway. Like in this one, I knew he wasn't gonna kill him because he's like a guy that's only after his targets that did him wrong, and not somebody that should be fearful because they're unhinged. Like, have you ever been in the same room with a truly insane person?
No. Well, possibly, but not for sure.
I mean, I have. Like somebody that's one of these just like one of these psychotic kind of gangster kind of people where you're like just watching like, God, I hope he doesn't drink too much, because I feel like at any second this guy, I mean, he's unhinged, right? Or somebody that's like, oh yeah, homeboy just got a prison out of for 30 years, and you're in the same room with this person, and it's kind of scary because you don't know what they're gonna do, right? Or just there's a my mom used to work at like there's a there's an actual in Napa, there's actually a meant like a state hospital like that's for the criminally insane, and she used to work there, and she goes like, some of these people, what was so scary about them is that you didn't know if just the color of your shirt was going to set them off. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's nothing you could have done to this person that sets them off, where I feel like this Joker isn't like that.
Well, my thing that I would argue against that though is that got to remember again, this is origin,
Yeah.
so this is his start,
Mhm.
and the fact that he was able to kill those guys on the subway and feel not only feel no regrets, but to feel good after he
Well,
did
he
it.
was turned on by it. As soon as he
That yeah,
killed him, he fantasized about feeling so powerful. Like he was so confident and powerful after that he fantasized about just, you know, getting to
yeah,
that
and
Beats apartment and then taking her, you know?
yeah, and to me, that's the beginning of him getting to the point where murder just becomes easier and
But
easier and
but does
easier.
this
And
guy
it
uh,
happens in real life. You think about, and I hate to use this example, but you think about young guys that go into the military and they're sent overseas to war and they have to kill and they come back, and then you hear unfortunate stories about guys
yeah,
killing their own families because
yeah, they're
killing
desensitized.
gets so much easier. Yeah. And I
Yeah, I
think
get that. I get that. But does this person like he's mentally handicapped, like, or he's mentally insane or whatever, unstable to the point where I feel like he's almost handicapped. Like he's mentally handicapped. I don't see him as like a genius. Like I don't see this Joker as a smart person at all. Like to me, he seems like a slow person, and he doesn't seem scary to me in that aspect where this guy is not capable of creating a criminal plot or even like anything like that. You know what I
Well,
mean?
there's different versions of the Joker though. Like, I actually felt that the Joker in The Dark Knight, I still love Heath Ledger's Joker, but I feel like he was almost too smart for like beyond the character, that the way he should be. Like, it felt like the Joker and the Riddler combined, basically.
Yeah.
Whereas the Joker, if you there's certain storylines where he's really not a genius. He's so unhinged that he's unpredictable. Like even
And he's willing to
and
bluff.
yeah, even in a physical fight, we know Batman can take on like Ra's al Ghul and these ninja assassins and all of that, but sometimes he still has difficulty fighting the Joker just because he's so unpredictable with the
Yeah,
things
yeah. The
that he
Joker will kick him
does.
in the balls. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
Like the Joker will try to stab him in the nuts.
yeah, and also I feel like the Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is true to the comics in that, I mean, you think about, we say we both were fans of The Killing Joke. Think about Joker in the flashback scenes where he was like a stand-up comedian, just like this movie has that influence. He's a stand-up comedian. He got used by criminals. He's that bumbling guy in the red hood that fell
Mhm.
into the vat and all of that. Like, would you, at that point, looking at him, would you think that he would be somebody that could take on Batman?
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because he is kind of used in that one. Yeah, this one has a lot of the same beats as that story. But the fact that he is criminally inclined in that one is a little different to me. In this one, he's a victim. Everywhere he's a victim. Like I would have liked it better if on the subway, instead of waiting for those three douchebags that were throwing French fries at that woman to start beating him up, if when they were throwing French fries at the woman, he kind of would have started like laughing. And before they were beating him up, I think it would have been better if he would have shot them before they started beating him up. And when the girl, like, say the girl's like, "Oh, thank you," whatever, he tells her to screw off too, and like scares her away. But the fact that they have to start beating him up, and now it's self-defense, and he's a victim. I don't like that as much, I
Well, to
guess.
me, that would have been jumping the gun, literally, because
Yeah, yeah,
there's a process to it, and you got to think about it this way too. Think about where Bruce Wayne is right now. He's a kid, so in the time that that kid transforms into Batman, he's a mastermind in his own right as a hero, and he becomes these ninja. He grabs these ninja skills and all these different things, all those abilities. Give the Joker where he is right now that same amount of time to evolve, and I think he can become like Heath Ledger's Joker, like the same way that Bruce is evolving over that time period.
yeah.
So again, I think
Maybe he's celled up with the Riddler or something. He gained some smarts, but to me, he seems like not a smart character.
well, in the end, I look at the end of the movie that he's still not 100% the Joker. It's still an origin. It's still an
Yeah,
ongoing origin at the end. And if they were to follow up with him, which I don't think they need to follow up with this version of the Joker,
no.
but I think there would have to be a sort of a time leap to where to justify the more criminality of him. And I get what you're saying. I don't think he would be like a mastermind, but still he's dangerous in that what they showed is that he can inspire others to act out on
Yeah.
their impulses and things like that. And that's where this version of the Joker is really dangerous, because these people that are overlooked, he kind of inspires them to do things, and that's where he's really dangerous.
Which I think one of the things I thought was absolutely genius was at the very end when he's thinking about Bruce, like the Wayne's death,
Yeah.
and she goes, "What's so funny?" He's like, "Oh, I just thought about a joke," and she goes, "Oh, what is it?" He's like, "Oh, you wouldn't get it." Right?
Mhm.
And it really ties everything together, especially with the confusion if Thomas Wayne is his dad or not,
Mhm.
and all that. I think it really was the perfect way to end it, because now not only is Bruce Wayne not gonna like, because he had crazy parents, like what his mom was insane. He never really had a father, but now Bruce doesn't even have that. He doesn't even have that, and
Yeah.
it's almost like Thomas Wayne bringing it on himself, So it is a joke,
And
and
at
it's kind
that
of funny
point
to him.
too,
Yeah,
and at that point, he's basically becoming what you said that he should be, where he will basically take out victims that have nothing to do with, they haven't done anything wrong to him. He knows that Bruce is now a victim of something he's done, and he finds it funny. And that's where I feel like some people went into this movie expecting laughs, but what makes the Joker
mm-mm.
ironic, the whole Joker name, is that he's funny to himself. He's not funny to other people. This is a guy that finds homicide funny. Like I don't ever really feel like the Joker has been hilarious. He's twisted and funny to himself. And that's what, like I said, the name is meant to be ironic in that way.
Oh, he has been funny, like when he called Harley Quinn his mermaid. And then
Well, I
he gets
think
that
that
big fish head and he puts it over. He puts a fish head over her body. I thought that was funny.
Yeah, I think in that way, and there are times where he's, especially in animation, where he's meant to get some laughs, but for the most part, with the character, especially in the comic books and everything, it's like he's funny to himself, and what he finds funny, we definitely would not find funny. Like
No.
even with him, killing people and forcing the smiles on their face with the gas and all of that,
Yeah.
and I loved. In fact, going back to the animation, I think one of the best Joker moments ever, and Harley Quinn was involved as well, is when he had an audience captive, and he was leaking out this laughing gas that was slowly killing them. And he had Harley Quinn basically just reading names out of a phone book, because he's like, at this point, they'll laugh at anything,
Yeah, they're just
you
laughing.
know.
Yeah.
And it's so twisted. Like he's killing a room full of people. That's funny to him. That
Yeah.
honestly should not be funny to us. But I think why some people are having such a strong reaction to this movie is that he has a viewpoint that you can understand, and that's unnerving to people.
Yeah, yeah, and that's where the backlash comes from. It's almost like they're trying to sympathize. And that's why people are mad, because it looks like, oh, you're sympathizing with mass murderers, right? It's basically the backlash. Um,
And it gets
yeah,
tricky because, like I said, what he's saying makes sense. Like if you paid attention to that line in his journal, he said the worst thing about having a mental illness is people want you to act like you don't.
Yeah.
That is a very true statement. As somebody that has dealt with anxiety and depression and still deals with it, it's an ongoing battle. When I saw that in his notebook, I almost wanted to stand up and clap because I'm like, ain't that the truth? It's absolutely true.
Yeah, no, and
And
they have that added burden of like if you're somebody that has lost the use of your legs and you're in a wheelchair, nobody expects you to walk. You know what
yeah,
I mean? But for
exactly.
mental illness, it's like people just don't understand it. And yeah, that is frustrating. It is very sad.
And not only
Uh,
do people not understand it, but they want you to act like you're okay just so they're not uncomfortable. They don't want to be uncomfortable. So they want you to just shut it down and act like it's not an issue so they don't have to deal with it basically. And you remember what he said to Robert De Niro, right before he shot him. And we're in spoiler territory, so I can say that openly, of
yeah, yeah.
course. But he said, he did the knock knock joke and he's like, this is what you get when you ignore that quiet person, basically. I can't remember the exact line, but he's what he's saying is true. And again, I think people are unnerved by that because they know that's an issue that we have in this society, that we don't take mental illness serious enough. There are still people, I just saw this in my comment section not long ago, had to block somebody, still people that will, and actually he was responding to another comment where a collector was talking about how he has used collecting to help him with certain issues in his life. And he gets a response from somebody saying, "You're so pathetic, kill yourself." That's
Yeah,
this
yeah.
type of society we live in. And when people do things like that, they take it for a joke and they are creating the type of people, that are doing mass shootings. I don't know why in the world people think that this bullying is not going to lead to these issues when it obviously does all the time.
I mean, it could be one of the things that leads to it. I'm one of those people that feel like so in this movie, I kind of when Robert De Niro was berating him about like, oh, listen to you, it's just me, me, me. It's just you feel sorry for yourself. He has a point there too. You know what I mean? It's like, look, shitty things happen to everybody, right? And I'm not saying that some people have it as bad as other people, but I feel like the worst things in the world could happen to you doesn't mean or that you can still be a good person. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Where in this movie they kind of like almost justifying what he does. And going back to that, what you were touching upon, one of the things I didn't like about the movie is that like the most to me the most quotable line in it is when he goes, and Murray, can you introduce me as Joker? And he just Robert De Niro gives that look like, okay. To me, that is the most memorable line. I feel like the most memorable line should have been the knock knock joke right before he shoots Robert De Niro in the face, because I feel like what would have been perfect right there would have been if his knock knock joke was actually kind of funny, but with a double meaning. And as Robert De Niro starts laughing, like say he makes it a joke where it's something very hurtful to him, to the Joker, but Robert De Niro still kind of laughs at it instead of going like, "Oh shit, this guy just poured his heart out," and he still kind of laughs because the joke is kind of funny, and then that's when he shoots him in the face.
I get what you're saying. The line was a bit on the nose,
Hmm.
but
I think that should have been more
yeah.
clever right there.
For me personally, the best spoken line, because I really feel like that line in his journal was the best line for me. But as far as a spoken line, I think actually him thinking about the death of the Waynes and saying
Yeah,
you wouldn't get it was the best
yeah.
line
I think
because
that's another one too. Yeah, definitely.
at that point he's basically saying I don't have to justify myself anymore. I finally know who I am. I don't have to justify myself anymore. That's what I really took away from that.
Yeah, yeah. I
And
like it was clever.
yeah.
It made sense. It was actually like, holy shit, dude, that is kind of a dark joke there.
Yeah, and he is in the movie. He's a victim in a lot of ways. I don't understand the incel connection. To be obvious, though, why people would say he's an
Well,
incel because
well,
incels,
because he wanted Zazie Beats. He
yeah.
doesn't. He didn't have the balls to try to get her
But
because
no, he's not blaming her though.
no.
Incels blame when they
Well, yeah,
say that the reason they can't get a woman is because of how women are,
yeah.
and I don't think he did that as a character.
But see, yeah, no, I know. He didn't, right? But the way they treat that, I think was actually kind of a clever commentary on it because she's the one that initiates conversation with him. He's like staring at the ground when they're in the elevator together.
Yeah.
She's the one that tries to make a conversation with him, and he shuts down. He could have talked to her for a little bit. Of course, you know, he's not going to put a couple of niceness quarters in her until sex pops out. He could have built up a relationship with her. He could have, you know, been kind of
Well,
charming, and then to say hi and bye throughout, you know, whatever. It's one of these things that okay, so an incel is the involuntary celibate for anybody that doesn't know, but an incel would take one little moment like that with a woman, and then when they think back about it, not realize all the stuff they did to be unattractive. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And I think that's why some people are kind of comparing it to that and calling the Joker an incel, because yeah, he never really whines about women or anything in it, because that would have been way too on the nose, I guess. But
Yeah.
a lot of incels have a similar experience and don't realize, like, going like, well, maybe you should cut your hair a little bit, man. Maybe you should care about your appearance a little bit more. Maybe you should try talking to a woman without the need, like without the goal of sex being the final outcome. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I don't know. I feel like the incel thing is a bit projected onto him because I understand what you say about that type of
Well, it's
moment,
clickbait too from
but
these reporters. It's trying to get a headline.
yeah, I feel like they're trying. Some people are desperately trying to find something in mass media to connect incels to, you know, and I think that's a bit of a reach for this character. I will say this though that in those types of situations, maybe I identify with this character too much because I'll be honest. There have been times where
Should I be
I've
worried about you, Franklin?
no, absolutely not. But there have been times where I just took time away from dating just because I know, especially like when my anxiety was at its worst,
Yeah.
it's a lot to ask of a person to bring them into that situation
Yeah, I
to
get
where
that.
for one thing they don't completely understand it, and then you know especially if you have anxiety attacks and you think about the Joker with his laughing fits and things like that, and even having to take medication and the person's going to see that and you got to talk about it and this and that, it can actually make the situation even more stressful, you know. So I understand passing on those opportunities to talk sometimes just because you know you're not ready for that, you
No, yeah,
know.
I get that too. I get that.
And but I mean the Joker, you know, I mean this version of the Joker long term, I could see him getting Harley Quinn. You know, I could see that happening eventually because he's building up that confidence already at the end
Yeah,
of the
see,
movie.
and I think the perfect thing, like if they did do a sequel, would be maybe flash forward 10 years or something on the asylum. He's somehow had a lot of time to, I don't know, whatever, have Harley, like he's talking to Harley Quinn, right? And it's just like Harley Quinn's on the actual couch, and it's a Joker kind of like halfway already into her head, and you know, trying to convince her to, you know, why don't you bring me one of them anarchist cookbooks or something like that, sweetie,
Yeah.
something like that. That would be a great way to kind of start it.
And I could see this Joker honestly being with Harley Quinn way more than Jared Leto's Joker because like we weren't given enough with him to say like how did they connect. All we saw was him
Yeah,
basically
girls love a
starting to be
gangster, man.
abusive towards her, you know. But yeah, and I just think there's more to Harley Quinn. I think she actually would be that type to, you know, in sessions with him, or at least if she found out about his past, the abuse and
See,
everything, to be sympathetic and get caught up that way.
and I think that this Joker would never be the one that wears the pants in a Harley Quinn Joker relationship. I feel like he would be a puppy to Harley Quinn.
But again, that's the origin. You know, like I said, the we're talking
Yeah.
about 10 years later now. Ten
Yeah.
years
Yeah.
later, a lot of change because
True.
remember again, if Bruce Wayne, that boy, can become Batman, Joker can change a lot in that time.
Yeah. I mean, because I've always thought about like the classic um, serial killers. You know, they don't turn into serial. They just turn into serial killers at 30 because they had a bad day. It's like these sons of bitches are killing little animals when they're like 5. You know what I mean? They kind of have some kind of monster in them already. And I feel like this man is a complete product. Well, I want to say product of his environment, but this man does not seem like an evil man to me. Like he doesn't seem like an evil man. He seems like a man that is getting revenge on a couple of certain people. And that's why I think even the fact that he kills the nurse at the very end seems, I feel like they should have just ended it after you wouldn't get it, and not have him run out into the hollow
Well,
on his
I,
feet.
I think though they're trying to show exactly what you said you want to see, like him getting to that point where he's cold and he will kill anybody.
But to me, I
And
thought that was inconsistent.
honestly, you know, with with him being in a hospital, we don't know how much time there was between that scene and the scene before it with the riot and everything. You
And we
know,
don't know, how about this? We don't know if anything that even happened in the movie happened,
yeah,
because what if
because
he's in
he's
the hospital?
unreliable.
Yeah, what if he's in the hospital, right? And this whole backstory about, oh, boo hoo, I'm a poor guy that
Yeah,
everybody beaten down, and that's all bullshit. And
yeah,
he's just thinking in his head, when I get out of here, what I'm gonna do, like he's never worn Joker makeup or anything. He's all, maybe he just doesn't like Thomas Wayne for some reason. He doesn't like Thomas Wayne. And he's just in the hospital thinking, you know what would be great? If I get out of here and I start this movement, and you know what would be funny? If I can get Thomas Wayne to get killed by somebody dressed like me and not even have to do it, and I start this whole thing, and that's the joke. He's a comedian writing a joke in his head,
yeah.
you know?
And he may, and you know what? He may have, because he is an unreliable narrator, he may have killed Thomas Wayne just because he knew that this was somebody that could change things for the better. And
Yeah.
he, in his mind, he turned him, he lied basically to this person interviewing him and basically said, he was the villain and he did all these things wrong and this and that or whatever. Like it all could have been just
It all
made
could have been
up.
bullshit because when you think about it, every single person, every single one except for the little guy, the dwarf. I don't even know if dwarf is the correct word anymore. I don't know.
Yeah,
In this
just
world,
little person, little
this woke
person.
world, yeah. I think little person is even worse though, man. I would hate to be called a little person, but anyway. Um, Everybody is a complete asshole in this movie. Thomas Wayne is the biggest prick. His mom is awful. The talk show host, what was his Murray? Was it Murray Abraham or whatever his name was? He's awful. Everybody, I mean, his clown boss. They're all awful people, except for the girl, which turned out to be fake. But all these other people, is this like, is this just? Are we seeing them just through the lens of the Joker? And he really is that crazy, and maybe that's why we shouldn't sympathize with him so much, because when you think about it, like nobody in the movie ever calls the Joker, like they never assume that the killings on the subway were self-defense. Pretty much everybody thinks it was a spree killing by the Joker. Not even the girl, or do they mention the girl that was in there? Maybe I missed that part, but not even the girl comes out to say, "No, this wasn't self-defense. Like these guys were gonna attack me, and this guy kind of like saved me, kinda, and they started beating him up, and he shot him." Like that could just be the Joker's point of view, because maybe the girl was never even on that train, and maybe those guys were just sitting there, and maybe the Joker looked at them going like, "You're these rich, good-looking scumbags that I just don't like," and maybe that's what really happened. We just don't know because he's just an unreliable narrator.
Yeah, and it's intentional. It's very much intentional to make things questionable towards the end because even the final moment, which I think looks amazing, with him putting the blood, like spreading the blood to create the Joker smile, which was just brilliant that they did that. It seemed a little too grandiose, and at that point, I was like, this moment of everybody around him cheering and everything, I'm like, I don't know if that's meant to be 100% accurate. And I like that it's questionable, though. I actually
Yeah.
like that it's kind of left up in the air. I'm that type of person. I don't need a neat little bow wrapped up on
No.
every movie that I see. So I actually like that some of it is
No, yeah,
questionable.
yeah,
And
I like that. It makes you think about it after the movie. Like, there's a lot of movies where, see, maybe this is one of the things that Martin Scorsese was talking about. There's a lot of Marvel movies that I watch them 10 minutes later, I'm not even thinking about them. This movie has stuck with me for several days.
yeah, and like I said, I still really I love the movie because of how it addressed mental illness, and it addressed some issues that we have in our society, including this separation of classes and all of that. Because the lower class, they were just on edge and they were waiting for anything to kind of ignite that fire.
Yeah.
And of course, him killing those guys had nothing to do with him trying to start a movement, but it did, and he went along with it. And he felt like he finally had a voice in that way, which I will say it's unfortunate that some people feel like they have to do these very negative acts in order to be heard. I think there's, of course, a lot of different ways in the different outlets. Even through artistry, some people can find a way to deal with negative emotions and things like that. But the Joker's meant to be one of those guys that just didn't have another outlet, basically.
Yeah,
Although
and you know something.
there's
Okay, no, go ahead, go ahead.
Oh, well, I was just gonna say real quick, although there's different versions of the Joker because Jack Nicholson's Joker was actually an art lover.
Yeah.
That's why he found it so funny to go into that art museum and create chaos or whatever.
You know what I thought was really clever? Not to get too political on this, but I thought this was very, very clever. Because what are the two things that we talk about after every mass shooting? There's two things that we always talk about. It is gun control and mental illness. And this movie addresses both of them really, because the Joker obviously is mentally ill, and you're taking somebody that's mentally ill already, and all this stuff happens to them. But then you can also think, like, what if that guy would have never gave him that gun? Because the gun is a catalyst to all his crimes. I mean, he doesn't create laughing gas. He doesn't, try to crash a train. If he didn't have the gun on the subway, those guys would have probably just kicked his ass. That's it. Just beat him up, left him there. If he didn't have that gun, like, I don't see this character having the money or the smarts or anything to get a gun on his own. The guy gave him the gun. If he didn't have the gun, he wouldn't have been able to do that to the talk show host at the end either. I thought that was kind of an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah, I think yeah, I get what you're saying there too, and there's a lot of people honestly. Yeah, and there's a lot of people honestly that without a gun they would not act. They just I think there's even, and it's funny to make this comparison, but even amongst like black guys and the whole hip hop community and a lot of gun talk and this and that or whatever, there are a lot of guys that just they can't fight worth anything, you know. As a matter of fact, there was this whole rap battle in New York not very recently where a fight broke out, and I know Joe Budden on his podcast was talking about it, how these guys can't fight. He's like, they look terrible, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's true. There are a lot of people that they play tough, but without a gun, they probably would not act at all. So it's something that we definitely do need to take a look at, you know, in this society. But a lot of people, they no, don't take my guns, you know. It's a lot of that goes on immediately. It's this back and forth, and then nothing changes. That happens over and over.
Maybe it would have been interesting to see how they could have made that scene a little different, like if the Joker would have stabbed the talk show host to death instead of shooting him.
Yeah, but I think and what's funny too is, I mean, I think we both saw that coming. I know I did. Like honestly, from the very first time I saw that Robert De Niro's going to be in the movie playing a late night show host, I was like, oh, he's getting killed on stage. He's getting killed during the show. Like, I knew that right away. If you know the Joker, you know that, because I think that also is kind of inspired by The Dark Knight Returns.
Yeah, they did that in Dark Knight Returns pretty much.
So
he laughing gassed the audience instead.
Yeah, so because of that, I mean, you know that was going to happen.
And they even if you go back to Dark Knight Returns, you know how when the Joker first comes out in the movie and he kisses that doctor, the lady doctor? Yeah. That's actually in the Dark Knight Returns too, except for the talk show host, I think, is David Letterman, and the doctor is Dr. Ruth.
Yeah, and the woman in the movie was definitely like inspired by Dr. Ruth.
I thought that was a nice little Easter egg in there.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. So, but yeah, with the whole thing, the way he killed the guy in his apartment with the scissors, though, that shows that he's willing to take it to another level. He's not just about guns, and he was so casual about it, you know.
Which was another funny one. So, see, that's another thing. It's like, okay, did that big guy? Because there was a couple of times where the Joker alludes to going, like, oh yeah, you didn't know why I get fired? Because basically the boss tells him that, no, this guy told me that you try to get a gun from him, right? It's something like that, right?
Yeah.
But the guy gave him the gun, so it's like it's kind of left up in the air. Okay, did the guy give him the gun, or did the Joker steal the guy's gun?
Well, I think he gave it to him because, remember, the reason the guy came to the apartment, he didn't care about what was going on with Arthur Fleck. He didn't care. The only reason he was there is because the cops had come around and he was trying to find out what was going on. And I think he was hoping that maybe he could.
Oh shit, he used my gun.
Yeah, I think he was hoping that Arthur would, you know, slip up and say something about what he did so he could take it back to the cops and clear himself, you know.
Yeah. And because they might even trace the bullets back to him, maybe, or I don't know. Well, I guess he wouldn't be on the loose if they had.
Yeah, but man, I love that scene so much, especially
that
like
was a
him
great scene.
With the just the white makeup on. He looked so creepy, and then once the blood was splattered, the blood on him as well, and the little person trying to get the chain, like, it was just so good. That was such an amazing scene.
Dude, I think as soon as he opened, like, if I went to my friend's house and I opened the door and he had, you know, he had the hair dyed green and the face like that, as I was talking about, you know, my mom's dead, I'd be like, all right, dude, well, nice talk. I'll see you
Well,
later.
the difference is they're clowns though, so they're used to it. They're used to
Yeah,
seeing the
yeah.
makeup. But and the
Oh
even
man.
the hair they probably didn't think about. That's the one thing I'm glad they didn't try to explain why the green hair, because I mean he's just a clown,
Yeah,
so
it's unnecessary.
yeah, it's not necessary at all. And he actually did. He had on a green wig before, so
Mm.
he did it with his natural hair. So it's not like they had to, so try so hard to explain that. So I'm glad they didn't like nitpick every little thing about the Joker. It wasn't like the with Solo, where Solo I felt like they tried to over explain some things
Yeah, that was stupid.
about his past. Yeah,
One of the worst movies. Oh,
so
you
yeah,
know, you know what I didn't like? So
oh
I liked almost all the music choices, everything, pretty much all of them.
yeah,
What I didn't like was when he finally has his transformation as a Joker, and where a piece of classical music would have been better, or even that same song that they were, that Smile song, whatever, I forget, like Smile and the World Will Smile at You, whatever that song
yeah,
was that they were using.
yeah. They did use
Instead, they
that earlier
used,
in the movie. Yeah,
but I think they should have used it either again right there when he finally transforms and he's dancing down the steps, right? And he's in the full Joker makeup
yeah.
and suit. They used Gary Glitter's, I
I
think,
didn't
Rock
like.
and Roll
Yeah,
Part 2. I was just like,
I didn't
are
like
you
that either.
kidding me? Like, it's completely tonally off.
Yeah,
Like, maybe that's how he's feeling on the inside. But that song is too overused for one. It
yeah.
just makes me think of basketball. And Gary Glitter is a convicted pedophile for one. It's just like, are we gonna really give this guy royalty money? This convicted pedophile that's in prison right now.
Well,
Um,
I think in general in movies they got to stop going for A sides. Like let's get more B sides in movies. More songs that are not super well known. Like
yeah, I just think of basketball. When I hear that song, I think of basketball.
and also I mean there are some movies that do that, and I really appreciate when they do that. Like X-Men Days of Future Past, the Quicksilver scene, that song that they used there
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
about time. That I
Yeah,
love that song now. I downloaded that song and I would play it for a while and I still listen to it every once in a while. And it's
was that
like
Cat? It's Cat Stevens, right?
I can't even remember, but
Oh,
it's like I just appreciate using a song that's not super well known. I don't know why that happens
yeah, and
sometimes. I
they
don't
they
know if
use they
this
use another song in that too, that Roberta Flack song. That's not too well known either. When Wolverine first wakes up in the 70s,
Yeah, yeah, true,
it's
true.
like that great music choices in that.
Yeah,
This one had great music choices too, except it's just that one. I was just like that scene in the trailer was so great because they used
yeah.
the other song, right?
Yeah, and I'm a sucker for them too, taking songs and twisting them
Oh yeah,
in a way they work so well.
like
It can
Martin
set
Scorsese is
characters
the
up so
master of
well.
that.
Yeah, and sometimes it sets characters up just to let you down, basically. Like, cause remember the Pinocchio song being twisted and used to set up Ultron, and then
Hmm.
Ultron just kind of sucked as a villain,
Yeah, yeah,
you know.
it was great for the trailer.
But yeah, the Smile song was so great in the Joker trailer. Yeah, it probably would have been better to bring that back or just something else.
Or bring that back and make it like extra echoey, or you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
make it more haunting for that
I,
scene.
I I will give them credit though. It was funny the way they used that because of course it was totally in his head, and then you see the cops just staring at him with no music. It's like it
Yeah.
was it was great to get some laughs in the movie. Some people will probably say it was way too serious. There were a couple of laughs though. I mean, that was a laugh. The apartment scene with the little person trying to get the
Hmm.
chain was a laugh. I thought it was funny too at the moment where he was like chastising the cops for, causing his mother's stroke, that he tried to go back in the hospital and like the door
The
didn't open.
exit.
He
Yeah.
just rammed into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it was just so awkward, but real life. It felt like real, like something that could
Yeah,
happen.
he's an awkward dude. Oh, you know what else I really, really loved was when he's in the comedy club and he's in the audience and the audience is laughing at the
Oh
jokes
yeah,
and he's
yeah,
complete like when the audience is laughing, he's like not getting it. And then
yeah,
when it's quiet on the setups, he's laughing. And
yeah.
it's just like it's a perfect metaphor
Mm.
for how out of touch this dude is.
Yeah, yeah, he's just not normal. Yeah, that was brilliant.
Yeah,
That was
he's just
really. I'm
off.
glad you brought that up. That was a brilliant scene.
Yeah, I thought that was one of my favorite scenes as well.
I think this is a movie that people will appreciate more in the long run because there's so much to dissect here. There are a lot of movies where it's like that was good, but there's nothing to talk about. Like I would say even the first Avengers movie, good movie, nothing to really
Yeah,
dissect
yeah.
there
Not
though.
one of
You
my
know what I'm saying?
favorites. Yeah.
So yeah, like I like movies that give you a lot to think about. And I think this movie is going to be studied, and people will come back to it over time, and the appreciation will grow for it. Even some people that are probably like heavily critical of it now may look at it with different eyes later on. So that's what I really like about the movie. I think it's really going to stand the test of time,
Well,
basically.
this will definitely become a classic, if not a cult classic, if it doesn't become just a straight up classic. Uh, or like the first Avengers, I will probably never watch that ever again in my lifetime, ever.
Yeah, because that
This one,
that's
I will.
that's where that's the type of movie where Scorsese is like, okay, maybe this is what you're talking about,
Yeah, that's
but
why and the first Avengers movie, yeah, it is like a theme park.
yeah,
It's like you go,
but
it's a thrill ride, and then it's over, and you don't think back on that thrill ride and
yeah,
think about, man, the engineers, how they curved this roller coaster. No, you don't think about any of that. You went on a
yeah.
thrill ride for a minute, and that's it.
Yeah, the problem with his statement though was that it was a blanket statement to all
Yeah,
of the movies, which is not fair.
yeah,
Obviously, he could
he
have
sounded
he
pompous.
could have put a qualifier in there or something, but yeah, and I hate that I sometimes put so much stake in the Oscars because I know the Oscars can be just nonsense a lot of times. But
It's very political,
if Joaquin Phoenix doesn't get this one, I'll be kind of annoyed
and he might not, man. He might not because he's a little because it is controversial.
because
You know what I
and
mean?
he's not a I mean, it's odd to say this about an actor, but he's not a Hollywood guy. He's not
Yeah.
that guy that plays
I've heard
he
he's a little bit.
plays
He
into
can
the
be difficult
politics
to
and all
work
of
with
that.
too.
Yeah, yeah, and he actually is awkward. There are some people that play awkward really well because they actually are awkward.
Yeah.
Like I saw his interview that he just did with Jimmy Fallon, and that was really weird. Like it was
And he's not like traditionally like a very great looking guy, right? Like if Leonardo DiCaprio was, and you know what, Leonardo DiCaprio, he's a good actor. Like I didn't think he was as good before, but after Django and The Revenant and stuff like that, I was like, okay, maybe DiCaprio isn't overrated. And like The Wolf of Wall Street, because I used to think he was a good actor but a little overrated. But after some of his newer movies, I'm like, and then Once
yeah,
Upon a Time in Hollywood, I was like, you know what, dude? Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I think DiCaprio was better than Brad Pitt, and everyone's talking about Brad Pitt, but I think DiCaprio was better. But
well,
you get a guy like
yeah.
DiCaprio to play this version of the Joker, he could pull it off acting wise,
Mm.
but he's too good looking too.
Yeah, he was rumored to be part of it at one time, and I think the look just didn't work because like
Yeah, he's too good looking.
some people did their mock-ups of what he might look like, and I was like, wow, that does not look right.
Acting wise, though, he could do it. Acting wise, he could do it. Like he
Yeah,
has
yeah,
that manic ferocity in him, or ferocity in him that he could do it. But this maybe a Joker more like the Heath Ledger Joker DiCaprio could do, maybe more in that vein.
mm,
But from where this Joker's coming from, I don't think DiCaprio is right, and I think Joaquin Phoenix is right because Joaquin Phoenix's face looks like it's been through a lot,
yeah,
right? And the Joker
yeah,
in this is only supposed to be like 31 years old, and he looks 50.
yeah.
And I
Which
think
I will
they
say,
did that
that
to
did
make him
make
look
the
older, like to make him look like he's been through a lot.
Thomas Wayne thing a little bit awkward. I was like, you call him dad? Why?
Yeah, it's like was he 10
You
when he had you?
yeah, you see them side by side. And I wouldn't change the casting though. That's what's bad about it. Like because Joaquin Phoenix is amazing, and I thought the actor that played Thomas Wayne did an amazing job. But maybe
Yeah.
they could have aged him up more.
But
Possibly.
I
I
but
don't
I
know.
think that they purposely picked Joaquin Phoenix because I mean, have you ever met somebody like I know this girl and she's very pretty. She's had 3 kids. Honestly, dude, I thought when I first met her because people always think I look younger than I am. People are surprised when I tell that like when I'm 37. Even some of my subscribers are like, "Dude, but you sound like you're way younger than 37." And I'm like, I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but a lot of people usually think I'm younger than I am. And she tried to guess my age, and I was like, "No, you're a little off. I'm 37." And she goes, "How old do you think I am?" And I'm like, I don't know, like 34, 35. And she got all pissed. She's like, I'm 26. I was like, oh crap. She looked like she was 35. She was 26. But then I learned more about her. She's like, she's had a bunch of kids. She's had bad relationships. She's been a waitress since she was like 18. So I'm like, yeah, no one. I mean, you look good. Not for 26. You look good for 34. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think they purposely kind of did that with Joaquin Phoenix in making him look so much older than this because of the severe trauma that he was put through as a kid
Yeah, it
and
ages you.
all his
Yeah.
life dealing with obviously an insane mother, and this is
Mm.
who he lives with, and it ages you. Yeah, like you say, it's like how when presidents go into the presidency, with a beautiful head of black hair, and then they come out with white hair.
Yeah. I this might sound messed up, but I gotta say it. When he found out everything about his mother and then he casually smothered her, this is another moment where I think people don't want to admit that they were probably cheering for him inside at that moment.
Oh yeah, I wasn't cheering for him, but I was like, hey, I get it, brother.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And that's another moment where people, I think that's why the movie is so divisive and makes people uncomfortable, is because these dark things, they kind of see it, but and I'm not gonna justify any of that. I'll say this movie though, I don't think anything's gonna come out of it. I don't think people have reaction to it. I think it's gonna stick to some people longer than other people as far as their immediate emotional impact to it. I think it'll depend on personal experience, but in the long run, it's a movie.
yeah,
It's a
it's a
movie.
movie. I think it's like I said earlier. This Joker is a lot tamer than most every other iteration of the Joker that I've seen. Um, it's very tame. I think that the violence affected people because it seemed realistic. It's like self-defense violence.
Yeah.
It's matricide, which is horrible, like killing your own mother. Like that is, whoa. That's pretty rough. I think but was it graphically violent when he killed his own mom? No, it wasn't graphically violent. And so he shot some guy in the face. We've seen that plenty of times. Um,
Yeah, the
and
most brutal
yeah,
part definitely was the scissor
the
stabbing in
scissors
the apartment.
was brutal, but it was quick.
And it's still compared to a lot of other violence. Like I think the Rambo movies have been way more violent
Oh
than
yeah, you got
than
people
that,
blown up. Like I think Rambo 3. There's this one part where there's a henchman. He wraps like a wire around his neck or something, drops him through a hole. So the guy hangs, breaks his neck, and then his body blows up from the grenade that Rambo put on him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah, and
insane cartoonish violence.
yeah, Rambo 4, he ripped somebody's throat out with his bare hands.
Yeah, it's
And
ridiculous.
even comedy sometimes, like Pineapple Express is oddly violent towards
It
the
is.
end. Like you
And
see a
and those
foot
and those
get
are
blown
punchlines.
off, like graphically, realistically. It's like, what in the world? Like, where did that come from?
And they're using the violence as a punchline in that movie.
Yeah. So
No,
I'm
even
like,
the original Taxi Driver, talking about getting shot in the face. The original Taxi Driver, you see somebody get shot in the face like multiple times with
yeah, and you
practical
see that
effects.
guy's fingers get blown off, his hand,
Yeah,
like half his hand blown off.
yeah,
Like,
it's very, very bloody.
yeah, so the violence in this, it could have been worse, but I think it's so such intensity built up to it that it feels more than some people, it feels like there was more there than actually is there. Even the Dark Knight, like when I first saw it, I was like, wow, this is PG-13 because it just felt so intense. But then you
Oh
look
yeah,
back
The
at it
Dark
and it's
Knight
like
is
there's
very hard PG-13.
yeah, but it's really off of the intensity because there's not anything too graphic in it. I mean, the most graphic thing is the pencil trick basically, but you don't even get a good look at that though, the result of it.
Oh, that's one of my favorite scenes. I'm like, dude, that is so like Joker just killed the guy as a punchline. That
And
is
I
the
yeah.
Joker, man.
And that ta-da, like he
Yeah.
delivered that so well.
No, and he was a genius with the grenades. I mean, it still looks all goofy, clownish, but it's actually very, very smart. It's like, dude, I'll blow us all up right now, dude. Like that's the Joker in that. Actually, there's great videos and stuff on it on all the gambling and poker metaphors with that Joker. Like the reason that Joker is so tough is that he's willing to gamble more than you are, and he will bluff, and he is just willing to put everything on the line, everything,
Yeah.
and that's what makes him so terrifying.
Yeah, and like I said, I do think the Joaquin Phoenix Joker is a different version. I still feel like in terms of just confidence that this Joker could grow into that Joker, but not necessarily in terms of planning.
No,
That's where they differ. Where I think this Joker, like I said, is more dangerous because of what he can incite in other people.
yeah,
He is that type that will basically start a forest fire and just walk away laughing. He's that type of guy.
yeah,
But yeah, like I said, I like the movie. I'm look forward to owning the movie and checking it out again. I hope
yeah,
there's a
definitely.
commentary because Todd
I hope
Phillips,
so.
wow, like
Has Todd Phillips done commentary in other movies before?
I'm not. I think so because he did the Hangover movies, and that's what's so surprising. The guy that
And
directed the Hangover did this.
well, he's a great filmmaker, man. Like, cause
Yeah,
the Hangover is great.
yeah.
But do
So,
you remember
well,
if on
the first
the
one.
DVDs? Oh yeah. Do you remember on the DVDs? I still think there's funny stuff in the other ones, but yeah, the first one's a near perfect comedy.
Yeah,
But I don't know. Does he do
I
voiceover
I
commentaries on his
I feel like
DVDs?
does, because I feel like I listened to the commentary at least for the second one.
And I feel like he would because he's pretty open about talking about his movies. There's some directors that don't like to talk about their movies at all. Like they're like the
Yeah.
classic artist that goes like, well, I don't know. And
Well,
there's
there's
people, but
already
there's
videos
yeah,
up of him doing interviews about this movie. Like he has a
so he
video
might.
talking about the final scene, and I'm like, I don't want to watch it. At least not right now. I want to check out a commentary if there is one, but I just want to kind of
I think
sit.
he'd be game for it. And
Yeah.
one other thing before we wrap this up, I do want to recommend that if you've seen Joker and you haven't seen Taxi Driver, definitely go watch Taxi Driver
Yeah.
because it's almost like a reimagining. And also want to say that this movie could have not been called The Joker. It could have also just been a movie without the Joker. And it's kind of interesting to think about, would this movie have been as good? Would you have liked it as much if this guy was just Arthur Fleck and everything was the same except for at the end he didn't like the whole motif wasn't a clown and the motif wasn't the Joker and he was just some other guy like, oh, I'm
Well,
the whatever.
I think I would like it because it is basically Taxi Driver, and also I would say even like
Or people
Falling
said, oh, it's
Down.
it's too much Taxi Driver.
But like I mean, you think about Falling Down though. That's another good example of a movie like this where an unhinged guy just goes worse and worse as the day goes along. Have you ever seen that movie?
Yeah, I have with
Yeah.
Douglas.
Yeah. That's another
Yeah,
good
it's a good
example
one.
of it. So I think I would like it. It's just all about the direction and everything, and Todd Phillips
That's a
did a great
classic
job. So
scene
I think this
when he
would be
gets pissed about the
enjoyable.
hamburger.
I don't think I would have seen it in a theater, probably,
Mhm.
because honestly, if it wasn't for the Joker, this probably would not be a big screen movie.
Yeah, just food for
Because,
thought. Yeah, just food for
yeah,
thought. Like, would the open-endedness at the end be like, would the backlash be even greater? Because it's like, okay, now this is a movie about a shooter that's being very sympathetic to him.
no, I think it
And
would it would probably be overlooked because there are a lot of like in indie type movies, they get away with a lot more. It's not as
yeah,
controversial. Like they're
just some
almost
food for thought.
expected to push the boundaries.
Yeah, just
Where
some food for thought. Not saying either
mm,
way. It's just trying to put out something for people to
and
think about.
what you're bringing up is a good point though. I think that's another reason why this is so controversial because it is on the big screen.
Hmm.
Whereas if this was like Fox Searchlight or A23, something like that, then it wouldn't be as much big of a deal.
Yeah.
Because like I said, indies are pretty much expected to push boundaries. People aren't used to this with like big Hollywood movies. They just want
No.
to a lot of people just want to go eat their popcorn, turn their mind off and just be thrilled, and this is so different from that.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think it kind of crosses the wires because it's like, okay, this is based off of comic book characters and yet it's that serious drama. It's just like I mean, what else could you really compare this to? It's almost like a new animal, even though it is based off of things we're familiar with.
Hmm.
But I
So
hope it encourages more experimentation with comic book material in the future, though.
yeah, I think they would. Maybe not with Marvel, but I think this is definitely the way DC needs to go.
Yeah.
I guess we'll see from Birds of Prey, but I'm very cautiously optimistic about that. It's hard for me to
Oh,
believe that's going to be good.
yeah.
But
I
before
think
we
that's gonna
go,
be wannabe Deadpool. I think that's the
yeah,
vibe I'm getting. The more I think about it, wannabe Deadpool. Yeah.
before we go, if they were to make pops of Joker, what three pops from the movie would you like them to make?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, of course, you got to have him. Okay, I would say, okay, the full Joker outfit at the end, of course, with a chase with the bloody smile. That would be
Yes,
awesome.
I agree with that
Um,
one.
I also would like him and just like he was in the apartment, no shirt on, the fully white face. If it would look right as a pop, I don't know how well that would play. I think they would have to make it look almost messy on purpose. The
Well,
white
I
on the
think you'd have
face.
to have the white face, the green
Mm,
hair, a little bit of a like a green wash on the shoulders to give it more
yeah,
detail, holding
yeah.
the scissors, and blood. He's got to be
Or
bloody.
even the yeah, and even with that, I mean, they could do a chase version like before and after the murder, if
Mhm.
that. But I mean, Funko's done plenty of blood splatter, so yeah, that would make sense. I doubt they would do two chases, but if I had to choose one,
Ideal
definitely the
world.
bloody
Yeah.
smile. That would be the one to go with. And then I think him from earlier in the movie when he was just a regular clown out on the street, I think would be cool to see as well.
Yeah, I think we agree. That's what I would want. I want the sign twirling costume,
Yeah.
basically, his actual character, whatever his character's name is.
Yeah.
One with the full-on Joker makeup at the end with the suit. I don't know if maybe in one of those dancing poses that he does, or holding a cigarette or something, or a gun. Um, one version of that, and yeah, the one in the apartment. But I would want it to be bloody,
Yeah.
a nice little wash on the shoulders to make it look good.
And they could even do two commons like they did with the most recent Hannibal Lecter, one bloody, one not.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, but and no supporting characters because they would just look like plain,
Yeah, I
even
can't
Robert De
imagine.
Niro, like, not
Yeah.
necessary. So
Robert De
yeah,
Niro would be the only one, maybe, but yeah, no, he'd just be a guy in a suit.
yeah, yeah. But
Maybe
like I said,
maybe one of his minions, like not his minions, but the people that put on the actual that Joker mask.
well, now
Maybe
that you
something
say
like
that,
that,
him with the mask maybe even as an option.
or
And somebody,
holding in his hand.
yeah, somebody did a custom of that for me where yeah, Jeff Funko Pop, and he actually did a custom for me with that the Joaquin Phoenix Joker holding the mask.
Oh, nice. That's nice. I have
Yeah,
to
and it
see a
turned out
picture of
pretty
that.
well. So yeah, I'm gonna, like I said, maybe after Oscar season it could happen. Fingers crossed, because I like the movie so much, I actually would like to have a collectible as well. But if they don't do it at all, I understand, But who knows? We'll see what happens with that.
I'd say there's a good chance we're gonna see one in the future.
Yeah, and I mean, I know we're mostly about Funko, but yeah, if they could do like a NECA figure as well, I'd be on
Yeah,
that. A statue, maybe even a DC statue,
pretty sure
I'd be
people
on
want a
that.
hot toy for sure.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So we'll see what happens with that. Um, you have any other thoughts you want to share with the
No,
movie?
that's it. That's it, man.
Okay, I do want to say for anybody that's still with us, I wish I had said this earlier in the podcast, but maybe we'll put it in the description that since we spent so much time focusing on the Joker with this and we didn't get to any listener questions, I think we'll do some extra listener questions in the next one. So any questions you want to throw us that throw our way, especially something that we can really dig into. Like I said, go beyond just what's your favorite pop, how many pops do you own, that type of thing. Give us something we really can sink our teeth into to discuss on the podcast. And yeah, we'll try to do some extra listener questions next time. I think we already have a couple that we can probably come back to. But yeah, that's something I definitely want to be a part of our podcast moving forward, really get that listener involvement going on. Um, any final thoughts you have?
No, man. Just thanks for listening. Take it easy, guys.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate it. And I don't even know how long we went. We definitely dug in deep, though. This was really enjoyable. So hope you all enjoyed listening as well. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Peace.